The battlefield was silent, but it was not peace. The silence was heavy, broken only by the sound of wind moving through smoke and ruins. Broken weapons lay in the dirt. Fire burned in the distance, and the sky was filled with the smell of ash. One human soldier walked slowly across this wasteland. His boots crunched on shattered metal and stone. His uniform was torn. His arm was bleeding, but he kept moving. His name was not important now because to him he was only a survivor. He had seen his squad fall one by one. He had shouted their names, but no answer had come. Now he walked alone, his rifle hanging heavy in his hands. He thought the battle was over, but his heart was restless. He had been trained to keep moving, to keep searching, even if there was no victory, even if there was no hope. His eyes scanned the shadows of broken machines, watching for movement. Then he heard it, a sound that did not belong to the ruins. A low, heavy breathing. It was slow, deep, like thunder waiting in the chest of the earth. The soldier froze. His finger tightened on the trigger. He turned his head toward the sound. At first he thought it was another machine still alive, but then he saw it. In the middle of the ruined battlefield, half covered by broken stone, was an alien giant. Its body was huge, almost twice the height of a human tank. Its skin was dark and marked with strange glowing scars. Heavy chains wrapped around its arms and legs. Some of the chains were broken, some still tight. Blood ran down its side where sharp metal had cut deep. The soldier raised his rifle. His training told him what to do. Enemy targets must be destroyed. Giants like this one had crushed human soldiers in battle. They were feared across the war. He could end this here with one shot, but the giant did not attack. It only stared at him with glowing eyes, eyes that looked more tired than angry. And the breathing came again, deep and broken, and in that sound the soldier heard pain, not rage. He stepped closer, his boots shaking on the ground. The giant growled, a sound that made the air tremble. The soldier pointed his rifle, ready to fire. His hands shook, his heart beat fast. This could be the end of him. Then something strange happened. The giant lifted one chained arm slowly, not to strike, but to press against its own chest. The gesture was slow, careful, almost like respect. The soldier blinked. He had seen his own comrades do this, a gesture of oath, a sign of warriors. The human soldier hesitated. His finger loosened on the trigger. He felt something pulling at him. He looked at the chains, the wounds, the broken body of the alien. It was not a monster here. It was a prisoner, he whispered to himself. Why are you still alive? But the giant could not answer in words. Only the glowing eyes stared back. The soldier lowered his rifle a little. His heart fought with his mind. He knew his commanders would demand he kill it. They would call it mercy for the human dead. But something inside him refused. Step by step, he came closer. He could see now that the giant's hands were shaking, not with strength, but weakness. The chains cut into its flesh, leaving marks of pain. Blood dripped slowly to the ground. The soldier looked at the chains again. He had a knife on his belt. His fingers touched it. The choice burned in his mind. If he cut the chains, he could die. The alien could crush him in one move. But if he left it here, the giant would die anyway. Alone, forgotten, broken like the battlefield, the human took a deep breath. His voice was low, trembling. If I free you, will you kill me? The alien giant made the chest gesture again, slower this time. The soldier did not understand the full meaning, but his heart told him it was not a threat. It was a promise. For a long moment, man and alien looked at each other across the ruins. The battlefield that had taken so many lives now held only two souls, one small and one giant. Their fates balanced on one decision. The soldier gripped his knife and moved forward. The metal chains were thick. It took all his strength to cut. Sparks flew as the blade scraped iron. The giant growled in pain but did not strike. Slowly, one chain fell loose, then another. At last, the giant moved. It rose to one knee, towering over the human. The soldier stepped back, his rifle ready again. His heart pounded like a drum, but the giant did not attack. It looked down at him, lowered its head, and touched its chest once more. The soldier understood. This was no enemy now. This was something else, something dangerous. but something important. The broken battlefield was silent once again, but now, in the middle of ruins, a bond had begun, a bond that would change not just the soldier's fate, but maybe the fate of the galaxy. The night sky above the ruined battlefield was heavy with smoke. The human soldier sat near the edge of a broken wall, his rifle close, his eyes never leaving the alien giant who sat only a few steps away. The firelight flickered between them, showing their wounds, their dirt, and the strange distance that still stood like a wall. The soldier's hands were shaking. He could not believe what he had done. He had cut the chains of the enemy. He had freed the giant that had once fought against his people. He whispered to himself, "What have I done?" But deep inside, he felt something different. He felt he had not saved an enemy. He had saved a life. The alien giant did not move quickly. Its huge body was weak. Its breathing was heavy, like a storm trapped inside its chest. Slowly, it pressed its hand against its chest again. That strange gesture. The soldier frowned. He wondered if this was some alien code, or a way of saying thank you. He could not understand the words, but the eyes of the giant were not filled with hate. Hours passed, and silence hung over them. The soldier knew he should leave. He should return to his own side before scouts found him with the alien. If they saw him here, both he and the giant would be shot on sight. Yet his legs did not move. Something told him that walking away now would mean throwing away more than just a choice. It would mean throwing away a chance at something bigger. The giant finally spoke. Its voice was deep and broken, like stones rolling down a mountain. The words were strange, a language the soldier had never heard. Still, the sound carried weight. The giant pointed to the ground, then to its own chest, then at the human. The soldier tilted his head, confused. The giant tried again. This time it tore a piece of broken chain from its arm and laid it between them. Then with one massive finger, it pointed at the soldier's chest. The soldier realized it was trying to speak without words. The chain meant slavery, pain, war. The pointing meant something more. Maybe freedom, maybe trust. The soldier's throat felt dry. He whispered, "Are you with me?" The giant did not answer in words. Instead, it lowered its head and repeated the chest gesture. His eyes glowed faintly in the firelight, and for a moment, the soldier felt like he was staring at a soul, not a monster. But fear returned quickly. The soldier thought of his commanders, of the army that would never forgive him. He remembered the faces of his dead squad. Would they call him a traitor for saving their enemy? Would they say he had forgotten their sacrifice? His heart was torn between loyalty and something new, something he could not explain. The silence broke when the sound of boots echoed in the distance. The soldier's head snapped around. He recognized the steps. It was human patrol. His own side was coming. If they found the alien giant alive, they would kill it instantly, and they would kill him for helping. The soldier jumped to his feet. His mind screamed at him to run, but his body did the opposite. He turned to the giant and pressed his finger to his lips. "Quiet," he whispered. The giant tilted its head, but it obeyed. Its massive chest slowed its breathing. The glow in its eyes dimmed. The patrol drew closer, voices cutting through the night. "Check the ruins," one said. "Make sure no alien filth survived." Another laughed. "If there's one left, we'll chain it and burn it." The soldier's fists clenched. His heart pounded. He knew if they looked here, it was over. The footsteps grew louder, closer. Dust fell from the broken wall. The soldier's hands moved fast. He pushed the giant back into the shadow, even though the giant was far too big to hide fully. Then he crouched low, rifle ready, pretending he was alone. The patrol's light swept across the ruins, landing only feet away. The soldier raised his rifle and shouted, "Nothing here, just me, wounded but alive." His voice cracked, but it was enough. The light paused, then moved away. A voice replied, "Fine, return to camp when you can, don't waste time here." The footsteps faded, leaving silence again. The soldier let out a long breath. His body shook. He turned to look at the alien giant. The giant had not moved, not even breathed loudly. For a creature so massive, it had shown control, respect, trust. The soldier whispered, almost to himself, "Why am I protecting you?" He expected no answer, but the giant leaned forward, close enough that the soldier could feel the heat of its breath. With one finger, it touched the soldier's chest lightly, not to hurt, but to mark the place where his heart beat. Then it touched its own chest. The same spot. The soldier's eyes widened. He understood then. The giant was saying something simple, something universal. You and me. The fire burned low. Shadows danced on the bat. Field ruins. Two enemies who should have killed each other sat instead as allies. Their bond had no words, only gestures, trust, and the weight of choice. But it was strong enough to shake the silence of war. The soldier knew his life would never be the same. He had chosen something impossible, a bond that could not exist in the eyes of the galaxy. Yet as the giant closed its eyes and rested, the soldier stayed close, guarding it like a brother. And in that broken battlefield, the impossible bond had begun. A bond that would test them both and perhaps rewrite the story of war itself. The morning light broke through the thick smoke, painting the ruined battlefield in a pale gray glow. The human soldier opened his eyes slowly, his back aching from sleeping on cold stone. Beside him, the alien giant stirred, its massive chest rising and falling like the rhythm of a drum. The soldier blinked, still trying to understand the strange truth. He had freed an enemy, and now they sat together, not as foes, but as something uncertain. The soldier pushed himself up and rubbed his face. His mind whispered that he should leave before it was too late. But his body refused. His eyes kept returning to the giant, who now sat awake, watching him quietly. The glowing marks across its skin pulsed faintly, like veins of light running under the flesh. The sight was both terrifying and strangely calming. The soldier whispered, "I should be back with my unit." His voice was low, almost guilty, but the giant only tilted its head and made that same gesture. Its hand pressed to its chest, a silent promise. The soldier's heart clenched. He didn't understand the words, but he understood the meaning. Suddenly, a sharp sound cracked through the ruins. The soldier froze. His ears caught it immediately. The sound of boots on broken ground. Not just one pair, but many. The faint clatter of armor. The heavy steps of trained soldiers. His blood turned cold. His own people were coming. He dropped low, signaling to the giant to stay silent. The alien's massive head lowered, obeying without question. The soldier's eyes darted toward the smoke-filled horizon. Shadows moved between broken walls. Helmets glinted in the light. Human patrols, a full squad, scanning the ruins. Their voices carried across the battlefield. "Search everything," one barked. "No alien survivors, no witnesses." The soldier's heart raced. He knew what that meant. If they found the giant, they would kill it instantly. And if they discovered him with it, they would call him a traitor. They would shoot him without hesitation. The giant shifted slightly, the ground trembling under its weight. The soldier turned quickly, his finger to his lips. "Stay quiet," he whispered harshly. His voice shook. The alien obeyed, lowering itself into the shadow of a collapsed tower. Its glowing eyes dimmed as if trying to hide their light. The human squad spread out, weapons ready. Dust rose under their boots. They were his own comrades, men and women he had fought beside. He should have been relieved to see them, but instead he felt fear, not for himself, but for the giant behind him. A soldier's voice rang out. "Tracks here, big ones, fresh!" Another cursed. "An alien giant survived. We'll take its head for the general." The soldier's stomach twisted. He clenched his rifle tighter. Sweat dripped down his forehead. He wanted to shout that the giant wasn't a monster, that it wasn't their enemy, but the words burned in his throat. No one would believe him. The squad drew closer, their eyes scanning, their rifles raised. One soldier spotted him. "You there? You're alive? Report!" The soldier forced himself to stand, his voice cracked but steady enough. "Wounded but alive. No alien here." The squad leader narrowed his eyes, stepping closer. His gaze swept over the area. The soldier's heart pounded. Every breath felt like a countdown. If the leader turned his head, he would see the giant hiding in the shadows. Suddenly, a loud crack split the air. A piece of broken stone gave way under the giant's weight. The sound echoed like thunder. The soldiers whipped their rifles around. There! Movement! The soldier's chest went cold. He had no time to think. His body moved before his mind. He raised his rifle and fired into the air. The sound echoed. Dust exploded from a nearby wall. "It's just rubble collapsing," he shouted. "Nothing alive." The squad froze, suspicion in their eyes. The leader studied him, his voice low, dangerous. "Are you hiding something?" The soldier felt his knees shake. He forced himself to stare back. "If there was something, I'd be dead already, sir." The silence stretched, heavy as iron. Then finally the leader spat on the ground. "Fine, but stay sharp," he signaled, and the squad moved away, their boots fading into the distance. The soldier let out a long, shaky breath. His body trembled, his head spun. He turned to look at the giant, who was still crouched in shadow, watching him with those glowing eyes. For the first time, the soldier realized something terrifying. He had just lied to his own people to protect an enemy. He sat down hard, his hands covering his face. "What am I doing?" he whispered. "They'll kill me for this." The giant crawled closer, slow and careful. It reached out one huge hand and touched the ground beside him. The earth shook softly under its weight. Then, with surprising gentleness, it touched its chest again, and then pointed at him. The soldier understood. The giant was telling him they were bound now, not by chains, but by choice. He swallowed hard, his throat dry. He whispered, "We're both hunted now, you and me." The giant's deep voice rumbled, not in anger but in something else, a tone the soldier almost recognized, almost like respect, almost like bro. "Theirhood." The soldier knew then there was no going back. His commanders, his army, his world, they would all see him as a traitor if they discovered the truth. But the giant had trusted him, and he had chosen to protect it. That choice could not be undone. Above them, the sky rumbled, distant ships moving across the clouds. The war was still burning, but for these two, a new battle had begun. Not against each other, but against everyone else. And so the hunted pair began their journey. One human soldier and one alien giant, enemies by blood, but bound by something stronger. Their story was no longer about survival alone. It was about trust in a galaxy built on hate. The forest beyond the battlefield was quiet, but not safe. The human soldier and the alien giant had escaped the patrol, but they were exhausted. The soldier's legs shook with every step. His rifle felt heavier than ever. The giant limped beside him, its massive frame leaning against trees that bent under its weight. Neither spoke a word, but both knew they had to find shelter before night fell. The air grew colder, the sun dipped behind broken hills, and shadows stretched long. The soldier spotted a dark opening in the side of a rocky cliff, a cave hidden by vines and fallen stone. He touched the giant's arm and pointed. The alien giant's glowing eyes followed his gesture. Together they made their way inside. The cave was deep, smelling of earth and damp stone. The soldier lit a small fire with broken branches. The flickering light pushed back the darkness, but the shadows on the walls danced wildly. The giant lowered itself to the ground with a heavy thud, its breath deep and uneven. The soldier sat on the other side of the fire, staring at the massive creature across from him. For a long while, silence ruled. Only the crackling of the fire and the dripping of water echoed through the cave. The soldier's mind roared. Acid. He should have run. He should have left the alien behind. Yet here he was, sharing fire with a being who had once crushed human soldiers in battle. Finally, the giant spoke. Its voice rolled through the cave like distant thunder. The words were strange, foreign, but it tried again, slower this time. The soldier shook his head. "I can't understand you," he muttered, but the giant did not stop. It pointed to its chest, then gestured outward, as if trying to explain. The soldier leaned forward, squinting through the firelight. The giant's glowing scars pulsed as it spoke. The soldier noticed they weren't just wounds. They formed patterns. Symbols burned into its flesh. The sight made his stomach turn. "They did this to you?" he whispered. The giant's head dipped low, as if nodding, its massive hands curled into fists. Then, with slow, deliberate motion, it dragged one finger across the dirt floor, sketching a shape. The soldier leaned closer. His breath caught. The shape was of chains, circles linked together, but then the giant drew a blade cutting through them. The soldier stared. His chest tightened. He finally understood. "You weren't fighting because you wanted to," he said softly. "You were forced." The giant lifted its head, eyes burning with a mix of shame and anger. Its chest rumbled as it spoke again, one hand pressing to its heart. The soldier realized the truth. These giants weren't natural enemies. They were slaves, driven into war against their will. The soldier felt sick. Everything he had been told about this war, about the giants being monsters, was a lie. He gritted his teeth, his hand tightening on his rifle. "They lied to us," he whispered. "They made us kill each other." The giant lowered its head. Its deep voice carried sorrow now, not rage. The soldier's throat ached. He had lost his squad, his friends, believing they had died fighting. A true enemy. But now he knew. They had all been pawns in someone else's game. The fire popped, sending sparks into the air. The soldier leaned back against the wall. His heart was heavy, his mind torn. He looked at the giant who was watching him closely. They were both victims of the same war, two soldiers caught in chains they never asked for. Suddenly, a sharp howl echoed through the night outside. The soldier froze. His hand gripped his rifle. The giant's eyes narrowed. Its body shifted, ready to defend. More howls followed, louder, closer. The soldier realized these weren't human voices. They were wild beasts drawn to the smell of blood and fire. The firelight flickered on the cave walls, shadows twisted like claws. The soldier's pulse raced. "We're not alone," he whispered. The giant rose slowly, its head brushing the cave ceiling. Even wounded, it towered like a living mountain. Its glowing scars pulsed brighter, like warning lights. The first beast appeared at the cave mouth, eyes glowing red in the dark. Its body was lean and twisted, with too many teeth. The soldier raised his rifle and fired. The shot echoed. The beast fell, but more came behind it, snarling and screeching. The soldier cursed. "There's too many." He backed up, his rifle hot in his hands. But the beasts swarmed, claws scraping stone. Then the giant roared. The cave shook, stones fell from the ceiling. The roar was not just sound, it was power. It sent the beasts stumbling back. With one swing of its massive arm, the giant crushed two creatures against the wall. Blood sprayed, bones cracked. The soldier fired again and again, covering the gaps. Together, human and alien fought back, their movements clumsy at first, but slowly forming a rhythm. The soldier rolled to one side, shooting a beast leaping for the giant's throat. The giant shielded the soldier with its arm, smashing another to the ground. They moved like partners, covering each other's blind spots, defending the fire that was their only light at low. Fast, the beasts fled, their screeches fading into the night. The cave was quiet again, only the fire crackling. The soldier sat down hard, his chest heaving, his rifle smoking. He looked at the giant, whose body was now covered in fresh blood. None of it its own. The giant lowered itself slowly, exhaustion clear. Its massive hand reached across the fire and tapped the ground near the soldier. A silent signal, a gesture of respect. The soldier stared for a moment, then nodded. He whispered, "We saved each other." The giant pressed its chest with one hand, then pointed at the soldier. The meaning was clear. They were bound now, not just by choice but by survival. The soldier leaned back against the wall, his eyes heavy, but before he closed them, he looked at the giant one last time. The firelight flickered across its scars, its wounds, its strange dignity. And he thought, for the first time since the war began, maybe the enemy was never the giant at all. Maybe the real enemy was outside, pulling the chains. The night inside the cave had been long. The soldier barely slept. His body ached from wounds, his mind heavy with the truth he had learned. Across the fire, the alien giant rested, its chest rising and falling like a great drum, glowing scars faintly pulsing with light. The soldier stared at those scars, remembering the giant's gesture, remembering the drawings in the dirt, chains, slavery, Lies. By morning, the fire had burned low. The soldier pushed himself to his feet, his rifle slung across his back. He stepped outside the cave. The air was cold. Mist hung low across the trees. Birds had gone silent. Even the wind felt heavy. He knew why. The patrols were still out there, searching, and now he and the giant were both fugitives. The giant followed him slowly, ducking to exit the cave. Every step it took shook the ground faintly. The soldier glanced back oft. He still did not fully trust it, not yet. But after the beasts in the night, after fighting side by side, something inside him had shifted. He could not look at the giant without remembering how it had shielded him, how it had spared his life when it had every reason not to. They moved deeper into the woods, away from the battlefield. The soldier whispered, "We need food, water." He touched his stomach, then pointed ahead. The giant tilted its head, watching carefully. Then it mimicked the gesture, pressing its massive hand to its own chest, before pointing into the forest. With surprising grace, it bent low and sniffed the air, following some unseen trail. Hours passed. The soldier's body was weak, but he forced himself forward. At last, they reached a stream, clear water rushing between rocks. The soldier fell to his knees and drank deeply. The giant leaned down, scooping water in its hands and drinking like a river beast. For a moment, they both laughed, the sound strange, rough, but real. It was the first time the soldier had laughed since the war began, but peace did not last. The crack of branches snapped behind them. The soldier spun around, rifle raised, his heart pounded. From the trees, shadows moved. Armored figures stepping into the clearing. Human soldiers, rifles ready. They had been found. "Drop your weapon," a voice barked. The soldier froze. His finger hovered on the trigger. He saw their eyes lock onto the alien giant, rage and fear burning in their faces. "Kill the giant," another shouted. The soldier's chest tightened. He knew what was coming. Dozens of rifles aimed at the creature that had become his ally. His mind screamed. If he moved, if he defended it, he would be branded a traitor forever. But if he stayed silent, the giant would be gunned down before his eyes. The alien giant straightened. Its glowing eyes burned bright. It let out a low rumble, ready to fight. But it did not move. It looked down at the soldier, waiting. For the first time, the human realized the giant was Teo, rusting him to decide. The soldier swallowed hard, his throat dry. He turned toward his comrades, his voice cracked but strong enough. "Stop, it's not your enemy." The words hung in the air like thunder. The squad froze, confused. "What are you saying?" One shouted, "It's a monster! It killed hundreds!" "No," the soldier yelled, stepping in front of the giant, his arms spread wide. "You don't understand. They were forced into this war. They're slaves, just like us, don't you see?" The squad leader's face twisted with anger. "Stand aside, soldier, or you'll die with it." The soldier's heart raced. His hands shook, but he did not move. He stood his ground. "If you want its blood, you'll take mine too." The standoff held, tense and sharp, every rifle aimed, every finger on the trigger. The giant's breathing rumbled behind him, low and steady. Then the silence shattered. One soldier fired. The bullet whistled past the soldier's ear, slamming into a tree. Chaos erupted. The soldier dove to the side, firing back, not to kill, but to scatter them. The giant roared, charging forward. Its massive arms swept soldiers aside like dolls. Trees cracked under the force. Gunfire blazed, sparks flying from the giant's skin as bullets tore across it. But the giant did not fall. The soldier rolled, shooting into the dirt near his comrades, trying to drive them back without ending their lives. "Stop! Listen!" he shouted, but his voice was drowned by the storm of battle. The giant shielded him again, its body taking the fire, its glowing scars lit brighter, pulsing with fury. With one hand it grabbed a soldier's weapon and crushed it like paper. Another swipe sent two soldiers flying into the river. The soldier's chest heaved. He wanted to scream. This wasn't what he wanted. He hadn't asked for a war with his own people, but the fight was out of control, and the only thing he could do was survive. At last, the squad broke, retreating into the trees, their leader cursing, "You're finished, traitor. They'll hang you for this." Then they were gone, leaving silence and smoke behind. The soldier collapsed to his knees, his rifle clattering to the ground. His body trembled, his mind spun. He had just turned his weapon on his own. His comrades would never forgive him now. He was no longer a soldier. He was a hunted man. The giant lowered itself beside him, its massive hand resting on the ground near his. The gesture was quiet, but powerful. It was telling him, "You are not alone." The soldier pressed his hand to his chest, then pointed to the giant. For the first time, he returned the gesture. The giant's eyes glowed brighter, a deep rumble of approval echoing from its chest. They had fought together, trusted each other, and survived. No longer human and alien, no longer enemy and foe. They were brothers in battle. The soldier looked at the trees where his comrades had vanished. His voice was quiet, almost broken. "There's no going back now." And the giant rumbled low, as if in agreement. Together they rose, walking deeper into the unknown. Not as prisoner and guard, but as allies, hunted by everyone yet bound to each other. The forest gave way to barren ground as the soldier and the alien giant pushed deeper into hostile territory. Days had passed since the fight with the human patrol. The soldier's body ached from hunger and wounds, yet he kept walking. His uniform was torn, his boots broken, but he did not complain. Beside him, the giant limped heavily, its glowing scars flickering weakly. Every step shook the ground, but still it moved forward. The war around them had not ended. Distant explosions shook the sky. Metal birds screamed overhead, dropping fire on cities already broken. Both man and giant knew they were out of time. Patrols were hunting them. Alien armies and human armies alike wanted them dead. They needed shelter, somewhere to make their stand. On the horizon, the soldier spotted black stone walls half buried in dirt. A fortress from another age. Its towers crumbled, its gates broken, but the walls still stood strong. The soldier's heart quickened. It was not safety, but it was a chance. "We'll hide there," he whispered, though the giant could not understand his words. The giant looked at the ruins, then at the soldier, and nodded slowly. Inside, the fortress was silent. Its halls were cracked and filled with weeds. The air smelled of dust and ghosts. The soldier leaned his rifle against a broken wall and sank down. His breath came heavy. He closed his eyes, but he knew rest would not last. The enemy would come, and when they did, it would be here. The giant sat across from him, its massive body filling the shadow of the ruined gate. It pressed its hand to its chest again, the gesture of oath. The soldier's throat tightened. He raised his own hand and mimicked the gesture. "Together," he said softly. The night fell fast, and with it came the sound of engines. The soldier's eyes shot open. Outside the fortress walls, lights glowed in the dark, red and white beams moving like hunting eyes. Voices echoed, sharp and cruel. "They're here," the soldier muttered. His pulse raced. He grabbed his rifle, loading the last of his rounds. There were not enough. The giant rose, its head brushing the broken archway. Its chest rumbled like thunder. The fortress walls vibrated with its roar. The sound was not just anger. It was defiance. The soldier's heart pounded. He had never felt smaller, yet never stronger. The enemy swarmed, human soldiers and alien troops alike, bound by orders, not truth. Their weapons glowed in the dark, ready to end what the world saw as a mistake. The soldier raised his rifle and shouted, "Come and take us then!" His voice cracked, but it echoed against the stone walls. The battle began. Bullets and beams tore through. The night, sparks rained across the ruins. The soldier fired until his rifle burned hot, his shots precise, covering the gaps where the giant could not reach. Then they were gone, leaving silence and smoke behind. The soldier collapsed to his knees, his rifle clattering to the ground. His body trembled, his mind spun. He had just turned his weapon on his own. His comrades would never forgive him now. He was no longer a soldier. He was a hunted man. The giant lowered itself beside him, its massive hand resting on the ground near his. The gesture was quiet, but powerful. It was telling him, "You are not alone." The soldier pressed his hand to his chest, then pointed to the giant. For the first time, he returned the gesture. The giant's eyes glowed brighter, a deep rumble of approval echoing from its chest. They had fought together, trusted each other, and survived. No longer human and alien, no longer enemy and foe. They were brothers in battle. The soldier looked at the trees where his comrades had vanished. His voice was quiet, almost broken. "There's no going back now." And the giant rumbled low, as if in agreement. Together they rose, walking deeper into the unknown. Not as prisoner and guard, but as allies, hunted by everyone yet bound to each other. The forest gave way to barren ground as the soldier and the alien giant pushed deeper into hostile territory. Days had passed since the fight with the human patrol. The soldier's body ached from hunger and wounds, yet he kept walking. His uniform was torn, his boots broken, but he did not complain. Beside him, the giant limped heavily, its glowing scars flickering weakly. Every step shook the ground, but still it moved forward. The war around them had not ended. Distant explosions shook the sky. Metal birds screamed overhead, dropping fire on cities already broken. Both man and giant knew they were out of time. Patrols were hunting them. Alien armies and human armies alike wanted them dead. They needed shelter, somewhere to make their stand. On the horizon, the soldier spotted black stone walls half buried in dirt. A fortress from another age. Its towers crumbled, its gates broken, but the walls still stood strong. The soldier's heart quickened. It was not safety, but it was a chance. "We'll hide there," he whispered, though the giant could not understand his words. The giant looked at the ruins, then at the soldier, and nodded slowly. Inside, the fortress was silent. Its halls were cracked and filled with weeds. The air smelled of dust and ghosts. The soldier leaned his rifle against a broken wall and sank down. His breath came heavy. He closed his eyes. But he knew rest would not last. The enemy would come, and when they did, it would be here. The giant sat across from him, its massive body filling the shadow of the ruined gate. It pressed its hand to its chest again, the gesture of oath. The soldier's throat tightened. He raised his own hand and mimicked the gesture. "Together," he said softly. The night fell fast, and with it came the sound of engines. The soldier's eyes shot open. Outside the fortress walls, lights glowed in the dark, red and white beams moving like hunting eyes. Voices echoed, sharp and cruel. "They're here," the soldier muttered. His pulse raced. He grabbed his rifle, loading the last of his rounds. There were not enough. The giant rose, its head brushing the broken archway. Its chest rumbled like thunder. The fortress walls vibrated with its roar. The sound was not just anger. It was defiance. The soldier's heart pounded. He had never felt smaller, yet never stronger. The enemy swarmed, human soldiers and alien troops alike, bound by orders, not truth. Their weapons glowed in the dark, ready to end what the world saw as a mistake. The soldier raised his rifle and shouted, "Come and take us then!" His voice cracked, but it echoed against the stone walls. The battle began. Bullets and beams tore through. The night, sparks rained across the ruins. The soldier fired until his rifle burned hot, his shots precise, covering the gaps where the giant could not reach.